What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Truzz the Bank podcast. It's my favorite podcast that we do all year. Every year, it's the Draft Recap Podcast. We're going to get through a lot of things. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out the podcast platforms to watch all of the recap right now. Otherwise, the segments will come out over the next couple of days. Also, don't worry, tomorrow, which is Monday, the undrafted free agent Raven full breakdown of every single player and all their pros and cons and stuff like that. That will also be out tomorrow on Monday. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you're watching this or listening on the Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a review. We're doing another giveaway when we hit 50 podcast reviews. And we're also doing a giveaway for all the rookies that were drafted. Shout out to everybody that's commented on all those reaction videos. But Joshua, let's talk about it. Let's break down every pick of the draft, give our thoughts on each of these players. Everybody in the comment section down below, you know what to do. Let us know all your thoughts.
Yeah.
But we're starting off. We're going with Mr. Zay Flowers. What were your thoughts on taking him at 22?
Man, if they haven't watched the reaction video, man, me personally, I was disappointed. And not saying that Zay Flowers is not a playmaker, not saying that he's not going to be great in the NFL, nothing of that nature. My thing was to get a big body wide receiver to complement, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., maybe even beat out Nelson Aguilar on the depth chart. But honestly, Zay Flowers, he can beat out Nelson Aguilar on the depth chart. I mean, I'm just being completely honest about that. He will be an immediate impact guy. With him in Boston College, he was used in a lot of different ways. That's the great thing about that. I just wanted a big guy. I was really hoping on, using that 22nd pick in the first round to get a corner, maybe find our way in the third round to maybe get Jalen Hyatt or Cedric Tillman, one of those type of big body guys. But I mean, Lamar Jackson, he did his research. I believe Zay Flowers is a Florida guy. He sent his list over to EDC and his research. So anybody says Lamar doesn't study players and don't study the game, yeah, he does. He knows what he likes. He knows who he wants. So this obviously was another Lamar pick. I call Zay Flowers Hollywood 2.0 without the injuries. So hopefully, coming August, September, we can see how dynamic he can be. But I know everybody loved it per se. I wanted a big body type of guy. That's all.
Yeah, and obviously people saw our reaction once he was drafted. I went back and looked at all the things when I had talked about him previously. I was talking to my buddy Matt before the draft, and he was saying, how many of these wide receivers do you think are first rounders and, are guaranteed first rounders? And I was like, Zay Flowers for sure is going to be a first round draft pick. Like, I had him as a first round talent. So I don't want anybody to think that I don't think he has the talent or skill. I don't want anybody to think I am a hater. Every single one of these players, just getting into it before the episode even goes on, we are rooting for every single one of these players. They are Ravens. We are Ravens fans. That is the goal, is for these players to all be the best possible pick. So don't misconstrue anything that we say as us not liking these players. We just really like certain other prospects that sometimes we just get ahead of, and we just really want them in the draft. Mine was Joey Porter Jr., and I made that very clear. The Ravens ended up not going with him, but what's funny is draft day I tweeted out kind of my favorite pick. What would be the worst possible pick? What do you think the Ravens will pick? What would be the, worst possible player for your rival to get? Yeah. Well, my favorite player to pick was Joey Porter Jr. Worst was Nolan Smith. My prediction of who the Ravens would pick was Zay Flowers. And then my worst possible player to go to my rival was Joey Porter Jr. Both of those ended up happening. And from looking back at, the things I've said about Zay Flowers, he's obviously great in space. And Todd Monken, it looks like what the offense the Ravens are trying to build is to scheme players open into space and let them make plays by themselves, right? And Zay Flowers is that guy. If you want somebody right now that can play and get yak, he was the best in the class. Now, Quentin Johnston, I don't think he's ready to take on that next level yet, which is why I don't think he was the number one in terms of yak. Zay Flowers was the yak guy. And he is small, but he's also very shifty. Something that I do really like about him was he bulked up significantly right after the Boston College season ended, getting into the combine. I want to say he put on about 15 pounds in like 3 months. just getting ready to show like, hey, I'm not just going to be this small, skinny guy like a Hollywood Brown. I'm going to try and get bigger, and become, I do not want to throw this player out there because he is one of the best receivers of all time, but become more of the Antonio Brown size. I don't want to make that Antonio Brown comparison. I don't think they're very similar players, but his agent, I remember he also compared him to Antonio Brown. So it's something they're trying to go for.
Mm-hmm.
But the Ravens ended up going with the guy that doesn't have the health concerns, which I'm okay with. Like, I understand that. Jordan Addison I liked more, but he does have health concerns. He's been injured throughout his college career. Don't know it. I love his game. I'm rooting for him in Minnesota. But we went with Zay Flowers, and I'm okay with that. I don't think it's an atrocious pick. It's not the pick I would have made, but it's very clear the Ravens are trying to help out Lamar Jackson and build a very different offense than the one that Greg Roman built, which I'm excited to see, right?
Yeah.
I think the offensive players that are selected, every single one of them, which was really only one and then a couple of offensive linemen.
Yeah.
We have to see how they work in the offense. Because if this was Greg Roman's offense, Zay Flowers, I think, would have been a terrible selection. Because that's all we've watched.
Zay Flowers wouldn't even got picked. If Greg Roman was still here, let's be honest, Zay Flowers wouldn't even have been thought of. Honestly, we'd have probably got Michael Mayer or Kincaid.
We would have gone tight end. That's probably right.
Yeah. So I mean, let's be completely honest. So I mean, but when you think about the addition of Zay Flowers being a part of this offensive weaponry, it's almost like they're building a basketball team of ISO players.
Yeah.
And I mean that's how the NBA is, is damn near going. It's going positionless. So I mean, even though you still need a QB to throw these wide receivers the ball, these are the Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers. I guess Nelson can make things happen on one-on-one, depending on which Nelson shows up on Sundays and Mondays and Thursday nights. I mean, hey, but these guys, can make things happen for themselves, once the ball is in their hands. So this is going to be a great opportunity for him and everyone else because, or someone can work out by themselves and show that they like, hey, I'm that guy. It's going to open it up for other players. So I mean, this is, but we also got to think about this too. The load that's been on Mark Andrews' shoulders for the past couple of years, it's about to get lifted. It's about to get lifted. So overall, for the offensive side of the ball, I guess we could for the dynamic and bringing this dynamic, I think it's going to be a great piece that's going to work out in the end. I am looking forward to seeing how it all pans out come week one. I really am.
Yeah, and I want people to know I made a video talking about best fits for Todd Monken's offense. Zay Flowers was my best fit for Todd Monken's offense, which is funny. Talking about versatility, that's what he brings. He's taken handoffs in college. He's taken screen passes in college. He's gone deep in college. He can do it all. He has done it all. And if you want the versatility and the do-it-all aspect for Todd Monken's offense, that was the guy. So, as much as our reaction, it was not a reaction of, oh, no, we hate Zay Flowers. It was, oh, man, we really loved Joey Porter Jr. or we really loved Jordan Addison. Okay. Next up, the next pick the Ravens made in this draft was Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. Joshua, what are you thinking about going with a linebacker with the second pick, third round in the draft?
Well, I'm not thinking what everybody else been thinking. Oh, PQ's out here. His fifth year option is not getting picked up. Oh, PQ. He just started coming on with Roquan Smith came along. Yeah, that's right. He hasn't had anyone to actually, play with him and teach him the game as a linebacker in the NFL. He was a well inside linebacker. That means a weak inside linebacker, not the Mike, not the strong. And even when he was at LSU, that defense had a lot of moving pieces. I believe oh my gosh, the linebacker for Tampa Bay, was he with Patrick Queen before he went
I believe yes, the year before it was Devin White.
Okay.
Devin White. Devin Bush plays for the Steelers. Devin White was there.
Okay, and I know Devin White was the Mike linebacker even at LSU, so it was a different type of ball game. Now that Roquan's been here, we saw the potential of what PQ can be. But the thing about Trenton Simpson, I believe he was a safety before he became linebacker. So I gotta everyone.
He was kind of a hybrid.
Okay, like a Shaq Thompson type of guy. Okay, great. So I mean, the great thing about that, Mike McDonald does like his chess pieces. He can move around. We saw what he did with Kyle Hamilton. So now, we can maybe with this move, you can put Trent Simpson in the box, let him, guard the tight ends, and maybe let Kyle Hamilton really, just range around with Marcus Williams or even let him come down and get a blitz, cause some more confusion. So I don't see this as a moving PQ out. I see this as another addition, another moving piece onto this defense that's going to be crazy, very, very attackful, and a lot of speed. He's like 6'2". He runs like a 4.4, 4.5.
4.43.
Listen, when you see somebody 245, 260 run that fast, got that type of range, and also he's had Kenny Pickett number in the ACC as well. It's a scary sight to see on the defensive side of the ball. So, once again, me personally, if there was a corner at 86 that I coveted, I probably would have went there. But we do have to understand the grand scheme of how Mike McDonald wants his defense to be moved around. So he got another hybrid player that he can obviously put in different situations where he feel like he can be efficient.
Yes, and I think that he was the player. We weren't expecting it to be a linebacker, expecting it to be a safety, but I think he was the guy drafted to take up what Chuck Clark was doing on the defense last year. Because towards the end of the year, it became Kyle. I mean, we had three safeties out there on the field at all times, and Trenton Simpson can come in and be where Chuck Clark was because he can cover he's played nickel. He's played corner on the outside as well. I don't expect him to do that. I think they brought that up at the press conference. They're like, he's not playing, outside corner. But he is going to line up everywhere. They said he could line up over at edge. They're going to blitz him. They love blitzing everybody. But rather than potentially a 3 safety defense, the Ravens traditionally have been running last year, maybe they switch it over and, okay, now they're throwing in Trenton Simpson in nickel defense, even though it won't technically be nickel, but he'll be playing where the safety used to play in there and play close to the box or play on the line. I mean, maybe sub in for Tyus Bowser, at Sam linebacker, have him rush the passer, throw him all over because that speed is lethal. He is going to be able to get after the quarterback. And a lot of his great plays that he made at Clemson from watching him, he was spying the quarterback. He was fantastic against these mobile quarterbacks, which now we're seeing so much more. How many times have we been sitting there and Patrick Queen is not able to contain Josh Allen as a spy? How many times do we have to watch Mahomes break contain? Trenton Simpson was the guy at Clemson where it was, do not let this quarterback run for yards. Hold him there, cover the low area of the field, cover close to the line of scrimmage, and if he breaks out of that pocket, attack, bring him down. That's what he did, and he can still do that in the NFL. It's still a valuable piece. And he's strong, he's physical. He's not 100%, fully developed. He is a young guy that needs to work on his craft, but he makes plays. And for a third-round player that I think could play, in, certain packages and definitely play special teams, I think it's a pretty good pick because he does fill a role. Initially, when I saw it, I was like, okay, we went Trenton Simpson, a third linebacker. No, he's going to be a third linebacker, but he's going to be on the field. It's not going to be like, oh, he's the backup. Like, we didn't look as Kyle Hamilton as a backup last year. He was a gadget. He was somebody, and he's now the gadget. Kyle Hamilton's now the safety. I really do like this pick. I am happy with the selection. Next up, we get into the day 3 picks. Round 4, pick 22 in round 4. We take Tavius Robinson edge rusher out of Ole Miss. Now, Joshua, I know you're a fan of this pick. What are your thoughts on this guy?
So I did listen to a little bit about him. I believe he's from Canada, and
Mm-hmm.
so I know they call their college university. I know he played at the university over in Canada for about 2 years, and then when COVID hit, they pretty much shut everything down. His first offer was from Ole Miss. He's just when he heard everything was shutting down for COVID, he got on it. And started seeing his highlight tape everywhere. When you just from that statement, just from that story alone, that already shows like, yo, he got a motor. He has a way of hustling, because this is his dream, is to play football on the next level. And with him hustling, with him, promoting himself out there, Ole Miss saw something that obviously that they loved, and it felt like he could be a great addition to that defense. And obviously he did show that. I believe he's 6'6", maybe about 260, a nice long rangy type of guy. I know we let Calais Campbell walk, and I wish the best to him in Atlanta. Even though him saying that they're going to get the Super Bowl was outrageous, but I get why you said it, Calais, and wish nothing but the best to you guys. Y'all over that building. I had a great draft too. Really shout out to y'all. But knowing that you can line this guy up on the inside and the outside, knowing that he was an SEC type of defensive and interior guy, man, that lights up my day, because on the defensive side of the ball, when you in that interior, you gotta be mean, you gotta be nasty. In the third round, I wanted us to go for Zach Wilson from the Ohio State University, but he got picked up by the Falcons. That's why I say shout out to the Falcons. They had a pretty good draft. He was the next best guy, and I feel like in his previous year at Ole Miss, he had multiple tackles for loss. He had multiple sacks. So when you hear a guy like that, that's going for sacks, that's going for the tackles for loss, that is attacking, that has that low center of gravity, that can set the edge, that doesn't mind going up there and tackling running backs. We in the AFC North, we got some heavy hitters. So it's good to keep on retooling that interior.
Yeah, this was a pick that surprised me. We're sitting here and it was like, okay, we really need ourselves a corner.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Tavius Robinson pops up and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Now, I felt like we could draft edge. I liked the idea of drafting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And when we drafted him, I saw edge and I was like, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know a ton about him. He was not a player. I was not scouting, typically, round 3, round 4 edges. That's not what I was looking at. I was looking at round 6, round 7. Shout out to BJ, who ended up going to Kansas City. I was Stephen F. Austin, but it's all right. It's all good. I think that he is a great selection because after looking into his game, after looking at what he can do and listening to him talk, I think that was really crucial because he's a hard worker. He's a smart player, but he's physical and he's big. And what big physical man did we lose in the offseason? It was Calais Campbell. And I think Tavius Robinson can absolutely get into that. Hey, I'm not a speed rusher, because that's what we kind of have right now is these speed rushers that aren't crazy strong. And he can line up at the 3 tech, which if people don't know, that's opposite the guard. Or he can line up on the outside and, be that edge rusher, play it opposite Odafe away. But I feel like the Ravens have been kind of stuck where they don't have these power guys because Calais, as great as he has been for the Ravens, which he's been great, one thing that he struggled with was that speed. He kind of, he didn't have that quick first step and anything like that. We're now going after a younger guy that can come in and just kind of be that physical force to help the Ravens, in 3rd and short where you may still have to rush the passer. But my favorite thing about this guy is his relentless effort and his drive to knock the football out. He said in his press conference or his media viewing, he said, it's not enough to get a sack. It's not enough. And that's something that reminded me of David Ojabo coming out of Michigan. It was like, that was the focus. Who did David Ojabo, who was he coached by? He was coached by Mike McDonald. Who's the defensive coordinator of the Ravens? It's Mike McDonald. The goal is to force turnovers. That's what the Ravens are going for. with this selection is, hey, here's somebody that's going to attack the football. He also, anytime I always saw him chasing down guys from behind when I was watching him. He wasn't giving up on these plays. And I know, Joshua, one of your favorite guy was Mr. Jelly, chasing guys down as that defensive tackle. Tavius Robinson is going to try and chase everybody down, whether or not he's going to get there, because he's all about that, relentless pursuit and that effort and that extra effort that he is always going to bring to you. And for that, I really do like this selection because, again, even though it wasn't thought of as a position that the Ravens need to step into, the Ravens lost a guy, and now we have somebody that can replace his role. Now, he's not going to be the leader Calais was. Maybe he is. That would be awesome. But I'm not expecting it. But he's going to be and try and be that next guy to fill in the Calais Campbell role. He's a little bit shorter. He's not 6'8".
Right.
I mean, he's 6'6", 257. He's a big dude. And I'm really excited to watch him play and kind of develop because, again, he's kind of newer. But we love, if there's anything about the Ravens, we are very good at developing smart, driven edge rushers and interior defensive linemen that we take late.
The only thing, hopefully this time around we can keep some of these guys.
That's true. I guarantee he's going to dominate in year 4, and we're not going to re-sign him. It's going to be really frustrating. He's going to be a Pro Bowler the next year. Kind of a trend. But you know what? It speaks to how well we're going to be able to develop him. Yeah. Next up, round 5, pick 22. We did it. We drafted a guy that I loved. Kyu Blu Kelly, cornerback out of Stanford. Joshua, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on this pick?
I mean, honestly, man, they finally got a corner, man. I know this is one of your guys. He's a Stanford guy. I know he's a 4-year starter. Is he in the 6 foot range?
Yeah, he's 6 feet, 191 pounds.
So I'm assuming that he's a pretty rangy guy. He probably has good ball skills, and he probably is more one of those. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is he more of the type of interception type of guy, or is he more of the break up the pass type of corner?
He goes for the picks.
Okay.
He goes for the picks, but he also plays the receiver. He doesn't go for the picks like stupidly. He's not like he's diving out of the way to try and get. Yeah, he's more of a technician that's going to get you a little bit of interceptions.
Okay, so I mean, nothing's wrong with that. As long as we bring somebody else in to come in and battle, let's get somebody in here to be Daryl Worley out of position. Nothing wrong against Daryl Worley, but I feel like there's some other guys we can go ahead and bring into this as depth pieces that can be more that could be better. Even though he did had a great game against the Cincinnati Bengals, I know people in the comments going to probably well, Daryl Worley did play good against Cincinnati. It was one time, guys. That was one time. But no, this was a good pick, man. We do have young corners in the facility already with Pepe Williams and Jalen Armour-Davis. So I mean, it's good to keep on. It's good to keep on adding on. But you should have the full rundown on this guy. You watch that football religiously. So tell the fans what to expect out of this young man.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is he's a 4-year starter at Stanford. And at a lot of schools, yeah, it's cool. That doesn't happen. You are not a 4-year starter at Stanford, especially under David Shaw. Christian McCaffrey couldn't start his rookie year or his freshman year. And Christian McCaffrey was by far the best running back in that room, but they just did not play him. Stanford's belief has always been you have to bide your time, and then when you get to if you're elite like McCaffrey was, yeah, you could be our running back as your sophomore year. But he came in, and they started playing him. After 4 weeks, they started putting him on the field, and he was making plays. And his junior year was his best year at Stanford, and he was a lockdown corner. He was seen as, probably the best corner in the Pac-12. It was really him and Clark Phillips kind of going after it in that title, and he was dominant. And he became a player where his senior year, they just didn't throw at him. I want to say he was only targeted about 24 times. I think he brought it up. He was targeted about 24 times his senior year. And people were using that as a negative thing because they're like, oh, we just haven't been able to see the ball skills and he hasn't been getting all those interceptions and doing all these things that he used to do. You know why? Because every game, how you beat Stanford is you look at their defense and you go, wow, they have one player that's good. And that's Caillou Blue Kelly. So they went every other location. And a lot of people are going to bring up the Jordan Addison game. It was a rough game for him. But really what happened is Jordan Addison got like an 80-yard touchdown. He beat him on a deep post. Kelly, it was in like decent coverage. It wasn't like he got completely toasted. Decent coverage, breaks the tackle, spins out of it, and scores. But other than that, Caillou played a great game. But Jordan Addison ended up with an absurd amount of receiving yards and stuff like that because, again, Caillou Blue Kelly was the only player on this Stanford defense. The only player that was competent. And so everyone just avoided him. So people were concerned about that. Hey, is he still going to be that same guy he was his junior year? Because people were looking at him, hey, maybe he could be a day 2 pick. Maybe he could be a day, round 3 pick. And then it was like, oh, nobody's targeting him. Goes into the Senior Bowl. And they're like, okay, now we're going to see how he does. And it was like, oh, he's clamping everybody. And his knock is his speed. But the last Stanford cornerback to come out where their knock was, oh, they're not that fast, is one of the best cornerbacks in history, and that's Richard Sherman. He's a very smart player, and if you just have a safety over the top, he is going to play press man coverage, and he's going to get in your grill, and he's going to press you. That is what he's going to try and do. And I think that's exactly what the Ravens want to try and do, is use Kyle Hamilton. They want to use Marcus Williams, and his dad played in the Tampa 2 defense with Tampa Bay, Brian Kelly. So he knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's smart about it. You can be a slower, like he's not that slow. He ran a 4.52. It's not the slowest. I mean, that's the same speed as Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's not like he's that slow. It's not like he's running 4.6. But I'm super excited about this pick because he is a cornerback that can lock you down and can turn into a potential number 1 cornerback in the NFL. But he doesn't have to be. He never has to be. He just has to be a number 2.
Hey, we love that.
We do love that. Next up in the draft, the Ravens ended up selecting a player that now I know how to pronounce the name. He goes by Sala. But I believe it's Sala Aumavae-Laulu. I'm just going to call him Sala. I think that's what most Ravens fans are going to do.
Don't worry. That was great. I just look at the phonetic spelling. You did pretty damn good.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to make sure I got it right. Offensive tackle. He's listed as a tackle out of Oregon, but he does have experience playing guard. 6'5.5", 317 pounds. Joshua, what are you thinking about going after back-to-back and then eventually back-to-back Pac-12 guys?
Honestly, man, I like it. I mean, it was another tackle that I had an eye on. I forgot his name. I'm drawing a blank. But he played tackle, but they also said with him being like 6'4", 6'5-ish, they was gonna move into the interior. The only thing I don't like about my guy Sal right now is his lack of recovery speed. If he does get beat, and his hand work. So that's something that we all know when it comes to Ravens, and whether it's offensive line or defensive line, we are the lineman whisperers. We know how to get these guys to work for us. So there's definitely a good piece. I mean, anyone that starts saying, "Oh, Ben Cleveland is going to be out of a job," you're crazy. He's not going to be out of a job. He's been in the facility since the beginning of April, working out for voluntary OTAs. He even got in some of the games last year, and he showed to be a pretty damn good left guard. And I feel like he's going to be a starting left guard for us come week 1. So don't be surprised, everyone. But this is just added insurance, honestly. And you can never go wrong with adding more linemen.
I fully agree, and I like the idea that we're going after the really big linemen. I mean, outside of our center, Tyler Linderbaum, who's undersized, I mean, there's a chance that next year, we'll talk about this next player, Andrew Voorhees next, But I mean, we're gonna have Ronnie Stanley, who's about
Mm-hmm.
6'5".
Yeah.
Ben Cleveland is like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
Linderbaum, who I want to say is like 6'2". But then I think Sala or Andrew Voorhees could be our right guard. And then obviously the biggest one, Daniel Fa'alele. Like, we are going after massive individuals and trying to reshape this offensive line, which I really like because, again, we're bringing in a new scheme. We're bringing in a new system. And let's get some young guys that we can develop so that they develop into the system that Todd Monken is going for. And so drafting O-line, again, I wanted somebody that could compete at the left guard spot. I think he is somebody that can compete. Also, if we ever need a swing tackle, we ever want to go into, throw him out at tight end, call him an eligible pass catcher. Again, do that at the goal line, right? Do that on third down. I have no problem with drafting extra tackle depth. I mean, the Ravens could come out and throw, Daniel Fa'alele in at fullback, and then they could throw Sala out as, one of the extra tight ends. And it's like, oh, how are you stopping that?
I wish they would have did that in the Cincinnati playoff game.
Well, we probably still would have, but Tyler Huntley still would have tried to jump over.
No, they would have to give the ball to Gus or even JK at that point. If they didn't give the ball with Gus or JK with Daniel Fa'alele in front of them, I would have been very highly very tipped off. But hey.
Yeah, I feel that. But then, Joshua, the final pick, the Ravens traded a future 6th-round pick for the 12th pick in the 7th round. And we select Andrew Voorhees. For people that don't know, tore his ACL at the combine, then repped out 38 bench press reps with one leg. What do you think about the Ravens making this trade and getting, a 6th pick in the draft?
One thing I'm not mad about it, and honestly, if people been watching the mock draft Mondays, that's somebody that we always end up finding in those later rounds. So, of course, he's going to be, ready for his 2020 in 2024. But you got to think about that right side. That right side will be retiring soon.
Yes.
And Kevin Zeitler and Morgan Moses. So, once he, he fully recovers and heal and continue getting stronger and continue working on his technique, I just hope he stays around the facility like the rest of the guys, so he can still, just be a sponge and soak up all the information, and just be around those guys. So when it's his time, he can just come out there and hit the ground running. Even with Daniel Fa'alele, I feel like that right side is going to be massive. I'm looking forward to that. When you get some guys, young guys on top of that, and when you see them pushing out 38 reps of 225, whoo, man, it's a strong man. It's a strong.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I like the pick. I'm looking forward to it. I love what they're doing in regards of beefing up the O-line, showing up, getting some guys that can that they can move around and build towards for the future.
No, I definitely agree. I think that was the right selection. I think I was really excited when I saw that the Ravens traded back in to grab Sony, where again he was potentially a round 3 pick this year, maybe even a round 2 pick prior to the ACL tear. Well, we traded a 6th round pick. Just like we did last year with David Ojabo, we used a pick on a player like Ojabo was a 1st-round player, and we used a 2nd rounder to just delay it a year when we get him. We're using a 6th-round pick to next year have a player come into the building that already knows the playbook, already knows the guys, already knows the system, and he's a day 2 player, and we are using a 6th-round pick on him. That's a great trade in my opinion. Again, people aren't going to notice it this year, right. But next year when he's all of a sudden competing in training camp, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, we used our 6th-round pick on this guy. This guy's going to be one of the best 6th-rounders that you can get next year when the Ravens have it." And I think that's worthwhile, to get somebody like that. But